हेलो, नमस्कार सबको। आपका सबका स्वागत है। आज हम फिर से कंटिन्यू करेंगे इसी बुक का सेकंड पार्ट, चाइना का पॉपुलेशन डिक्लाइन और चाइना का कैसे देखा था और उसका कैसे मतलब पास्ट में डील किया था उस पॉपुलेशन ने, उस पॉपुलेशन का कैसे इम्पैक्ट हुआ था उसके इकोनॉमी पे और उसके पॉलिटी पे। और हमारे साथ यहाँ पे नीना है। नीना,
Namaste to all the viewers. And how Shekhar has explained, we shall be discussing the book on China and its population once again, about what the factors influence its population in the past and how it affects policy, state, economy, and other things.
थैंक यू नीना। Yeah.
Hmm.
So, are you reading or yeah,
You can read.
from here? Yes. So, wait a second. Yes, yeah. So we have completed so far from here till here we have completed in the last episode. Now we will be going further. The traditional Chinese dietary habits that mainly focus on plant food also help to feed the population to the greatest extent. The transformation of grain into meat and dairy products will consume grain. This can also be seen from India that India's current grain production is less than half of China's. But since half of the population are vegetarian, half of the people are vegetarians, food can be self-sufficient. This China is facing a food crisis even now. Much of the import is for animal feed. During the
Yes.
Kangxi and Qianlong periods, China's population growth was very rapid. Emperor Qinglong read the population statistics list in 1792 and said, I checked the number of people reported by various provinces last year, which is more than 10 times higher than that during the Kangxi period. So he was basically comparing himself with the previous emperors. Due to the different demographic standards of the Yangtze and Qianlong periods, Qianlong's estimates were not very rigorous. The author verified that the population in 1792, more than 300 million, should be 6.9 times that of the first year of Kangxi, basically more than 150 years, 44 million. Yeah, this is where he had gotten the information from. Population growth is accompanied by an increase in comprehensive national strength. According to Angus Madison's estimate, in 1820, China's population, 380 million, accounted for the world. So basically, one fourth of world's population was living in China. The GDP accounted for the world. The next section, Chapter 1, Section 5: Population growth drives economic growth. The process of modern population growth. Malthus, a 32-year-old unmarried young man from England, published his frustrating masterpiece, Popularity, in 1798. He believed that people's unsatiable desire for sexual pleasure caused the population to grow geometrically, while the food supply was arithmetic. And the population would continue to grow until it reached the limit of human food supply. Most people were destined to live a hungry and cold life. So basically, a dystopian kind of future he was imagining. However, the facts are exactly the opposite. According to World Bank statistics, in the 200 years since 1800, after deducting inflation factors, food prices have actually dropped by as much as 90%, which means that the poorest people can also eat enough. Human living standards have been quantitatively improved, especially in past 100 years. The world population grew nearly 4 times in the 20th century. In the same period, the global GDP was more than 18 times that of 1900, and the per capita GDP increased by 5 times. Even Africa, which grew by the slowest, also increased by 3 times. The relative prices of almost all basic necessities of life have declined throughout the 20th century. For example, the international prices of uh, many major grains, corn, wheat, and rice, decreased by 70% from 1900s to 1998. The 14 international trade metals and non-food agricultural products portfolio fell by nearly 80% from 1900s to 1999. Basically, everything is going down, prices and the production is increasing. As we are growing in our numbers, we are also increasing our technological advantages. And I think because of that, we are also increasing our food production capacity. According
Yeah.
to Angus Madison's estimate, from the first year of AD to 1820, the world's per capita GDP increased by $467 to 66 and it took 1820 to increase by 43%. So basically, from here, from 180 to 1820, we have only increased, I think, $200. And in just 200 years, later 200 years, we have increased by 43%. In just it in just 188 years, from 1820 to 2008, the world's per capita GDP increased by 10 times, from $666 to $7,614. In fact, by Malthus, Adam Smith, the founder of the theoretical system of classical economics, had realized that population is a key factor in economic development. He believed that the power of exchange provides an opportunity for division of labor. So the degree of division of labor must always be subject to the scale of this force. And in other words, to the scale of the market. The most critical factor in the prosperity of a country is the growth of its population. Simon Kuznets, the father of the empirical statistics and the winner of the Nobel Prize in Economics in 1971, believes that population growth has prompted people's demand for consumer goods to expand, and additional demand has stimulated additional manufacturer investments. All of this, coupled with the ability to utilize the economics of scale, accelerate the growth of productivity. As a result, when the population grows, people's living standard also improve. Kuznets emphasizes that the population growth can bring economic benefits to infrastructure construction. So basically, the more the people, more the demand. If there is more demand, then there will be
Yeah.
uh, more jobs, and if there are more jobs, then the economic conditions of the people will basically improve. Alfred Marshall, the founder of the neoclassical economics school, also had the same view. He believed that the increase in wealth and the population will increase demand, and the increase in demand will change the market supply and demand relationship to a certain extent, resulting in a situation of supply and demand imbalance, thereby increasing commodity prices. This result will inevitably, inevitably stimulate investment and thus develop the economy. Robert Solow, the winner of the 1987 Nobel Prize in Economics, proposed a neoclassical economic growth model based on a large number of historical facts. According to Solow model, the per capita output growth rate is ultimately equal to the technological progress rate. The total output growth rate is equal to the technological progress rate plus the population growth rate. Basically, जितना ज्यादा में टेक्नोलॉजी में एडवांस होंगे उतना ज्यादा हमारा क्या होगा ग्रोथ होगा पर कैपिटा में और उस हिसाब से पॉपुलेशन का ग्रोथ होना चाहिए the country's total economic growth rate is positively correlated with the population growth rate. Frederick August von Hayek, a classical liberal scholar and 1974 Nobel Prize in Economics, believed that cost accounting is life accounting. Theodore Schultz, the father of human capital theory and the winner of the 1979 Nobel Prize in Economics, believes that the growth of contemporary economics and the composition of national wealth are mainly the result of human capital, and technological progress mainly depend on accumulation of human capital. Hmm. ये तो सही. He believes that the human capital is different from material capital. Material capital is increased by decreasing the uh, is rewarded by decreasing, while the human capital is rewarded by increasing. Hmm. After material capital is invested in, others cannot use it. There is no problem with knowledge, and the others still use it, and it is rewarded by increasing. Schultz asserted the future of human beings is not determined by space, energy, and arable land but by human knowledge development. So basically, he's uh, saying everything else doesn't matter. All that matters is human development, basically. क्योंकि आज हम वैसे भी
Exactly.
fiat currency यूज कर रहे हैं ना.
So, so he discussed about this thing about physical and human capital being different, right? So,
हम्म.
from that, do we um, take that human capital increasing has way more returns than physical capital increasing, as in like in a whole economy
Exponentially.
growing and stuff?
So it's
Yeah,
it's somewhat like this. So physical material will be your gold, and your human development will
yeah.
be your Bitcoin. Bitcoin is
Hmm.
dependent on your basically
No,
the
no, human
market.
capital is
Gold is not
humans, it seems.
humans.
Labor.
For example, humans we
Yeah.
can use humans in various other methods. No, the material will
Hmm.
can only be used once. But humans can be used again and again. We can transfer that knowledge that the single human has gained to the next generation, and after that. So we are progressing generational wise. And here, if a single material is used once, we cannot use it again. Either we have to destroy the thing that we have built to recycle it and build another one. The the material can only be used once, but human capital can be used again and again. So basically, as far as I understood, the population explosion
Okay,
leads to
that
technological
makes sense.
explosion. Hmm.
Yeah, you can continue.
The most important driving force for modern economic growth is the technological explosion. While talking about history, people often only considered issues from a political perspective. The leading of 100 celebrities influencing the progress of human history by American applied physicist Mike Hart evaluates historical figures from another perspective. He says, Hart said, although political changes are important, to be fair, 500 years after the death of Alexander the Great, most people in the world lived no differently from the way their ancestors lived 500 before the birth of Alexander the Great. But scientific discoveries not only brought about technological and economical revolutions, but also completely changed political and religious thoughts, arts, and philosophy. Therefore, on his ranking, there were the most scientists and inventors. It's actually true. I don't think Alexander achieved that much. It's just exaggerations of its individual glory. That's all there is. On Hart's list, Childhood, the inventor of the paper, and the John Gutenberg, the inventor of the printing press for movable type printing, ranked 8th. Hart explained, before the 2nd century AD, Chinese culture was not as advanced as Western culture. The lack of appropriate writing materials was a great obstacle to the progress of Chinese culture, and the West had parchments, and papyrus. However, Childhood's invention of paper completely changed the situation. In the 1000 year after AD, China's achievements surpassed the West. After the Western countries began to use paper, they were on par with China. After John Gutenberg invented technology that could print books on a large scale, Western civilization once again surpassed China. It's true to some extent. When Gutenberg invented the movable type printing machine, Europe was in the early Renaissance. The printing speed of Gutenberg printing technology made printing very cheap. In 50 years, 30,000 printed materials have been printed with this new method, totaling more than 12 million copies, allowing more people to access various books, greatly accelerating and deepening the Renaissance, and also had a decisive impact on the subsequent Protestant Reform and Scientific Revolution. But printing alone is not enough to complete the Renaissance and trigger the Industrial Revolution. The promotion of high yield crops in the Americas has greatly increased the grain production, promoted rapid population growth, and enabled sufficient population to be liberated from the land to engage in scientific, philosophical, and artistic research. For example, Newton laid the foundation for modern scientific theory between the age of 21 and 27, causing the subsequent world to undergo revolutionary changes. During the Newtonian era, high yield crops in Americas were already popular in the UK. Newton's failure to farm no longer affects his or her family's livelihood. So he had the opportunity to continue studying and research. Otherwise, the children of the farmers like him, whose father died early, must bear the burden of their family as a teenager. And a generation of scientific superstars will be buried in the farmland. So basically, he's feudalism को खत्म करो basically बोल रहा है.
Hmm.
Hmm. Taking 1492 as the boundary, the total cumulative population in the previous 5,000 years was less than the half of the next 500 years, and the current civilization inherits the civilization created by all human population. In ancient times, the lifespan was short, and the average time for each person to create civilization was very short. The productivity was low, the number of people engaged in scientific research was minimal compared to the present. Due to the sparse population and the spread speed, it was difficult for scientific and technological personnel to form a cooperative relationship. The sparse population was difficult to industrialize scientific and technological achievements, which lacked the motivation for scientific and technological innovation. If one Newtonian person was produced for every 1 billion people, now each generation could produce several. In ancient times, it took 10 generations to produce one. Hmm, basically. In hard celebrity ranking, there were only 34 celebrities in the past 4,000 years before Columbus, while there were 66 people after Columbus. The founder of the most modern recipients were born after Columbus. Hmm. The explosion of population leads to technological explosion. The increase in population, I think this is the thing he was talking here. The main point was this food availability, high yield crops like corn and others, the spices like tomato, potato, all those things helped much more than anything else in the technological advancement, because all the labor was freed, and they can be used to do other things like colonizations and looting and all those things. So if you are basically anything other than
But his
farming you are
point
doing,
is
you are
generally
productive.
his point is generally about technology because he was talking about printing earlier. So printing was one thing,
It,
and then this high
all that,
yield crops are another.
even
Hmm.
China, the same, we can say apply this to China also. Now, China also had a China was also rather advanced in technology, but the problem was they did not had the only thing that was lacking in China and Europe was that China did not get the uh, crops from the Americas, because all the rice is not a very productive crop.
Hmm.
If we
Yeah,
compare
yeah.
with other crops, rice is not very productive. So
Something like potato is
most of the
very productive.
Chinese population, most of the Chinese population was doing farming. So they did not have the spare time for doing anything else. The crops played a major role. Even if you had printing press, how will you use it if you do not have the labor to supply it? Basically, all the components, or who
Right,
will
right.
read if they do not have free time? So crops provided a
Hmm.
really, guess, a plus point in the in this case, in the Renaissance case, because The Gutenberg's was the printing press was in a time when they just got the high variety of crops. Hmm. Now, the increase in population only consumes existing resources by subtracting. But more importantly, it turns the current non-resources such as sunlight into new resources, solar energy. And the increase in this new resources increase by multiplier. For example, what steam engine made non-resource coal the main energy started the industrial revolution. Otto's industrial internal combustion engine made non-resource oil the blood of the industry. Haber's theory turned non-resource air into nitrogen fertilizer. The electric lights invented by Edison brought light to people all over the world. The breakthrough in energy and the application of artificial microclimate have greatly expanded human living space. Hmm. Human history is the process of constantly turning non-resources into resources. As long as science and technology are progressing, natural resources will never be exhausted. And a decrease in population means a decrease in open source intelligence. China's population decline is also a tragedy for the whole world to some extent. I guess even if you leave even if we leave the Chinese context here, the population decline is happening all over the world. They are basically going
Yeah,
for our deaths.
it
Uh,
could.
will
If
really happen.
this theory is correct, then that means that technology expansion and economy are bound to go down.
It will go down because the later generations, the coming generations will not have time to. They will not have free time. Basically, the in case of China, for example, they will have a lot more older people than the younger people. So all the younger people will uh, have to take care of them. They would not have time for anything fancy like inventions or anything like that. They will have to get the job to provide for their family. They do not have anything else left to do. The same case will be all over the world. So the innovation will
Right,
automatically
right.
decrease. Either that or it can
There'll
be
be less
opposite also.
demand as well. There'll be less demand
Yes,
for the
demand will
innovation.
also be affected. The most crucial thing will be demand because the demand will automatically decrease. So the I guess if the demand decreases, then the innovation will also decrease because they do not have to improve their technology to meet the demand. Because you can also go by that.
Right.
The population explosion has led to the knowledge explosion and the acceleration of the speed of dissemination. And science and technology have developed at the unprecedented level speed. After the 1960s, due to market demand, the processing capacity of computer chip doubled every 18 months, but the price was half. This is the famous Moore's law. Since the 1990s, the internet has also shown this exponential growth trend. Bob, uh, Bob McCabe, the inventor of Ethernet, uncovered the secret of network value. The value of networks is proportional to the square of network users. The more the users, the more the value of the network. Basically. Here, the concept of network can can be not limited to computer networks. For example, more users there are on the internet, the more frequently, the collisions of opinions will occur. The easier it will be for new opinions to burst out, and the government's decisions can be made more scientific and reasonable. I'm not sure about the their government's capacity to make decisions in this situation. The impact of the internet on the
Yeah.
world will far exceed. I'm. uh, This is very confusing. I'm not too sure about this one. I don't think this will lead to this kind of situation where the government will have will move towards scientific and
The
reasonable.
opinions will also not necessarily be mature, right? Like the
Yes,
right opinions might be buried under thousands of wrong opinions.
mm,
Mm.
the opinions will be of the masses. The masses are generally
Yeah.
stupid. So it will be a mob mentality. The government will be hijacked by the mob mentality because the mobs are louder.
Mm,
The
exactly.
stupidest voice will be the loudest. The government will be listening to them. So I am not too sure about the scientific and reasonable things, but maybe I don't know. The impact of the internet on the world will far exceed that of the paper making and printing, and will change many aspects of the world's economy, political structure, and the social life. The population size, advantage, and density. Humans are higher animals, and their biological characteristics determine many of their sociological characteristics. In 1975, the Edward Wilson, a professor of biology at Harvard University, published Social Biology: New Synthesis, which revealed the social attributes of organisms. Zhang Yifu, a professor of sociology at Peking University, believes biological science will undoubtedly have an unparalleled impact on the reconstruction of basic theories of sociology. Maybe the deep psychological view of biology will greatly change our thinking methods. Hmm. इस पर कुछ बोलना है मुझे, इसमें कोई ओपिनियन?
इस पे
Hmm.
biological science will undoubtedly have an unparalleled impact on the reconstruction of basic theories of sociology. How? Is he thinking about things like that Neuralink type of thing? I don't know.
तो सोशियोलॉजी वाले को पूछना पड़ेगा या बायोलॉजी वाले को पूछना पड़ेगा, तो मतलब क्या
Mm,
रीजनिंग है कुछ देखना पड़ेगा.
maybe next chapter, next paragraph he's talking about.
Cell growth is divided into latency, exponential, hyperphilia, and arrest speed. The cell latency is closely related to cell density. When there are too few cells, the growth rate will be very slow and even all die. ये तो है. This is because cell growth requires some cofactors produced by cells themselves. If there are too few cells, it will lead to insufficient such factor. The number of cells increases to a certain number, and the gap junctions are formed between cells, allowing electrical couplings between cells and chemical communication. The cell function is very active and enters the exponential hyperphilia period, and the floor area of each cell is also reduced. After the exponential hyperphilia period of 3 to 5 days, the space gradually decreased, which can inhibit cell movement. This phenomena is called contact inhibition. When the cell density further increases, the nutrients in the culture medium decrease and increase. Metabolites increase. And density inhibition occurs and the arrest periods weaken. Then the nutrients in the culture medium gradually become depleted, metabolites accumulate and pH decreases. Cell will be poisoned and in several cases death. The the cells were digested, diluted and planted in a new cultural fast, and the cells grew rapidly again. However, if the passage is too late and the cells will not grow well after the passage. In other words, to maintain a complete function of cells, a high cell density is required, but a sufficient private space is needed. It is both social and independent. Hmm. So basically, अगर हम सो ह्यूमंस का भी यही है कि अगर हम बहुत कम होंगे तो हम अपने आप को सस्टेन नहीं कर पाएंगे, और बहुत ज्यादा
एक
होंगे मतलब ज्यादा होंगे तो एक हद के बाद में
एग्जैक्ट
सस्टेन कर सकते
हाँ, एक एग्जैक्ट रेंज होता है जिसमें कंफर्टेबल रेंज होता है।
हैं. हाँ, आई थिंक 100 to 200 के आसपास अगर आप हो तो आप क्या कर सकते हो, वर्क को डिवाइड कर सकते हो आपके बाद अंदर और काम कर सकते हो. पर
हाँ,
अगर आप 10 के आसपास हो तो मरने का चांसेस जितना, मतलब एक लिमिट के बाद में अगर उससे कम हो तो आपका मरने के चांसेस ज्यादा होते हैं, और अगर एक लिमिट के बाद में ऊपर हो तो आपके चांसेस और ज्यादा इंक्रीज होते हैं. पर वो एक लिमिट होती है बेसिकली, क्योंकि फिर जो आपका सारा काम है ना वो बराबर डिवाइड नहीं हो रहा, एक ही आदमी 15 काम कर रहा है, तो उसके ऊपर ओवर एग्जॉशन हो रहा है, उसके ऊपर रिस्क बढ़ जाता है। तो सिमिलर केस है बेसिकली। Similar laws exist for population and civilization development. When the population is small, it is difficult to generate civilization. Ethnic groups in I think this the same thing here the line. So even in other cases, the civilization always pops up in a highly dense area where the people are a lot more than, for example, the forest. Even let's say, for example, in the Deccan Plateau or the Chota Nagpur Plateau, we have not seen civilizations there, but rather we have seen civilization in Indus Valley or for the other river valleys. So they had sufficient, I think, environmental support and the population. Even I think even till now, the Africans didn't have a proper civilization per se. They had small tribes, but did not have a coherent mechanisms of governing themselves. Your thoughts on this one?
You can continue. I think this point they're still not finished with that point, no?
Mhm. Ethnic groups in some areas often have cultural backwardness and even extinction due to their small population. Only when there is a sufficient population size can the population density and scale advantage be produced in civilization. After the population grows to a certain level, due to the decrease in per capita arable land and land annexation and corruption in administration, contact suppression and density suppression occurs. If the administration and agricultural technology are not improved, social unrest, famine, plague, and even war will occur, and the population will be difficult to increase again. The population grew rapidly after the war. New technologies have increased the space that carries the population, and the population has become relatively thin. More than 100 years ago, Angels said that 2.5 million people were concentrated in London, increasing the strength of each person by 100 times. The more the more people there are, everyone can share a lot of public things. The more efficient the utilization efficiency of land and infrastructure, the more convenient the public services, the smaller the per capita public investment, which is also conducive to treatment of environmental public pollution. More population, the smaller the demand can form a market. The smaller the demand can form a market, stimulate industrialization and make the labor or division of labor
Hmm.
more detailed. ये तो है. The richer the intellectual resources, the easier it is to exert technological advantages and be shared by everyone. As industrial chain will be formed between industries, so employment and consumption will increase. For example, if 8 people in place A apply for one position and 80 people apply in a 80 people in place B apply for 10 positions, the proportion is the same. But for job seekers, there is a tenfold possibility of applying in place B. For the company, 8 people in place A may not have a one qualified person. So the company has to have empty positions because there are 80 candidates in place B. Even if the company cannot recruit 10 qualified person, it can still recruit 6 or 7 qualified employees. Relatively speaking, the employment rate in place B is higher, and one service industry personnel can be added in place B. This is why Canadians are willing to run to the United States, and the small cities and businesses are willing to run to big cities.
Hmm. I think basically it covered all the points that uh, an
Yes.
increase in population itself will increase the economy naturally.
Mm. The next section. Competitiveness between enterprises forces enterprises to strengthen management, improve technology, and improve quality and reduce prices, so that consumers and enterprises can achieve a win-win situation. Due to the concentrated population, the large exchanges between economic entities and the large Flow of capital has also promoted the development of financial market, and the banking and insurance and security industries can show their skills. The interaction between major industries has made the city's total economic volume grow like snowball. The population density effect is more fully reflected in transportation. The greater the population density, the lower the per capita transportation costs. Under the same conditions, the greater the population density of a country, the shorter the long distance migration of per capita unit of goods in this country within a unit of time. The densely populated Japan per capita railway is only one tenth of that of Australia. But Japanese railway transportation is more convenient. The service quality is better, and the high speed railways have been developed. Due to the small population, small buses have fewer buses, so it takes a long time to take a bus. Large cities have a large population and they can get bus every few minutes. The frequency basically the more the people, the more the frequency of the transportation. इसकी हर 5 मिनट में बस आ जाएगी, नहीं तो गांव में आपको दो दो
Yeah.
तीन तीन घंटे वेट करना पड़ेगा बस के लिए, क्योंकि पॉपुलेशन नहीं सस्टेन नहीं कर सकता इसलिए. The entertainment industry is no exception. TV and movies shoot at the same cost makes more money because of the increase in audience. The more money you make, the competitive competition will be fierce. As a result, the quality of directors and actors will improve, and you can spend more money on entertainment investment. Ordinary people can watch high-end performances for a very small amount of money. The United States monopoly position in the film industry is closely related to its population. The same is true for tourism. If a tourist attraction has a large number of tourists, the funds will be available for construction of attractions, improve service quality, the lower the cost that tourists will bear. If there are too few tourists, many potential tourist attraction cannot be opened. One of the reasons why the United States is the most powerful country among the developed countries is that the United States is the most populous country among developed countries and has the greatest population benefits among developed countries. India and China are rising now because of their population size and density advantages. Urbanization is to try and make use of population advantages. Most of the metropolitan areas in each country are the most economically developed regions in the country. Only when a city's population reaches 200,000 can it show the scale effect. In my country, less than 20% of more than 2,000 country level cities have reached this scale, their due scale. Population mobility is the flow of strength. Mao Yushi noticed that the places where the population flows are in prosperous, while the places where the population flows out are decayed and corrupt. ये तो काफी जनरली ऐसा ही होता है.
ये
ऐसे नहीं
बड़ा
होना.
जनरलाइजेशंस हैं इसमें तो, वो इतना कुछ
हाँ, अभी तो
नया नहीं.
आगे आता है. अभी तो ये क्या बेसिकली वो फाउंडेशन रख रहा है कि ये है, फिर उसके बाद में कंक्लूजन स्टॉक करेगा.
हम्म.
As a large
यहाँ से क्या?
population
हाँ हाँ.
moves to hmm, as a large population as large population moves to coastal and large cities, the mainland will become a base for the elderly, weak, sick, and disabled. In the future, it will be difficult for the mainland to form a large scale, let alone country towns. There is a shortage of migrant workers now. Where can I find labor to develop the mainland economy in the future? So basically, he's talking about China. There is a labor shortages going on there. Of course, the excessive expansion of urban scale will also bring additional costs, such as traffic congestions, economical deterioration, etc. In fact, these urban diseases are not hopeless and are not inevitable, and these negative effects cannot offset the positive role of large cities in economic development. The industrialization process of mankind for nearly 200 years is the process of constantly solving the urban diseases. The cities are getting bigger and bigger. For example, From rickshaws, horse-driven carriages to car, to rail, light rail and subways, transportation has greatly improved. From firewood to coal to liquefied gas and electricity. The environmental bearing capacity of cities has also increased. In fact, the most serious urban diseases in modern times is not traffic congestion and environmental pollution, but ultra low fertility rate. ये main point है. Due to the unreasonable urban planning, the urban floor area ratio is high, and per capita indoor space and outdoor space are small. Contact suppression and density suppression in modern sense have emerged. So basically, आप पहले आपका बहुत ज्यादा होगा पॉपुलेशन इंक्रीज, उसके बाद में एक टाइम बाद में अपने आप ही, क्योंकि आपने इस तरह से उसको मेंटेन कर रखा है एनवायरनमेंट को कि वो सप्रेशन जो है आपका डेंसिटी और कांटेक्ट वो अपने आप बढ़ जाएगा, जैसे फ्लैट्स में
हाँ,
होता है ना बेसिकली। फ्लैट्स यही है कि आप अगर आपका कनेक्शन नहीं
इंडिपेंडेंट
है।
हाउस में ज़्यादा स्पेस भी है।
हाँ, स्पेस बहुत मैटर करता है, पता है ये फर्ट इसके अंदर आपका एनवायरनमेंट है ना वो बहुत इफेक्ट करता है फर्टिलिटी रेट्स को बढ़ाने के लिए, क्योंकि सब जो है आप
हुँ।
ये डब्बों में बैठे हैं फ्लैट्स के अंदर, तो कांटेक्ट नहीं है
हाँ,
तो क्या
जो
इंटरेक्शन
कंट्रीज़
भी नहीं है।
इसने बाद में मेंशन की है, जापान, सिंगापुर, साउथ
हाँ,
कोरिया, हांगकांग,
तो ये
ताइवान,
सारे
ये सब
अपने इस तरीके से।
अपार्टमेंट में रहते हैं लोग सबसे ज़्यादा।
हाँ, उनके पास घर पे नहीं नहीं रहते इतने, इसलिए housing prices are high and people's livelihood pressure is high, and people are not living, and the fertility rates in Japan, Singapore, South Korea, Hong Kong and Taiwan are only बहुत लो है। US fertility rate can be stable at a generational replacement level of 2.1, which is related to urban planning and reasonable housing prices. The per capita housing area in the United States is 2 to 3 times that of Japan. Basically, इतनी सारी जमीन है तो वो भी वहाँ पे इतना फ्लैट्स में रहने की जरूरत नहीं है ना, दूसरी कंट्रीज में इतना नहीं है जमीन। But I think the same phenomena is also happening in United States now, because most of the central part of United States is pretty much empty. There are only the elderlies are living there.
And now they live
Elderlies or
mostly in the cities like New York and others, right?
yes, the newer generations are moving to cities. So I think in the next generation, the US will face the same situation. I think it will be earlier. I think because the migration effect. Because of the migration, US was maintaining its fertility rate. Now, because they have stopped the illegal migration, the fertility rates will be dropped like to nothing. Like I think it will be around 1.1. I think 1.1 to 1.2 will be in a less than a decade.
Hmm,
Hmm. The
exactly.
median housing price, yes, okay. The median housing price is only 5 times that of per capita GDP. The outdoor space is also large, and every community has a park. Even a high density metropolis like Chicago, the population density is only 4,000 people per square kilometers. The fertility rate in Texas, the USA can stabilize at 2.3, which is also related to spacious and low priced housing. I think this book was written quite a while back, because the housing prices are crazy now, but they are dropping, I think, as far as I've seen. The housing prices are going down to some extent. China is in the stage of accelerated urbanization, but due to the strict restrictions on the urban land supply, urban planning is carried out at a high density of more than 10,000 people per square kilometers. Beijing and Shanghai have more than 15,000 people per square kilometer. In fact, it is the it is following the old urbanization path of people who are not living in Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. It only uses population, but not produces population. At present, even if there are no family planning in Shanghai and Beijing, they cannot afford to raise 2 children. Basically, one child policy हटा दोगे तो भी बच्चे नहीं होने वाले हैं, इतना महंगा हो गया।
हाँ,
And with the improvement improvement of living standards, people's requirement of our housing has also increased. For example, Per capita housing area of urban residents in China has increased from 6.7 square meters in 1978 to 31.6 square meters in 2010. Families with 30 square meters were able to raise two children in 1978, but now it is not possible. In 1950, the per capita housing area of the United States was only 26 square meters, but now it exceeds 70 square meters. China's cities are mainly only child, only children, but in the future, mainstream families will need to have three children, and the housing area and design will be very different from now. Chinese cities will face fundamental reconstructions in the future, but in the future, the aging will be serious. Labor cost will be very high, and the cost of urban reconstruction will be very high, such as Japan and European countries. In the future, China will also fall into the mud pit of ultra low fertility rates like Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea. Therefore, underdeveloped areas in Western China should focus on building central cities to farm population scale and density effects and the enhance irradiation capacity. Developed eastern provinces and cities should use developed transportation to guide population diversions to the suburbs, reduce the ratio of the cities, prevent the urban diseases of low fertility, and allow cities to produce both material wealth and population wealth. Should we continue?
Yeah, we can continue one more section. I think this is still the first chapter only, right?
Yes, yes, first chapter. Chapter 1, Section 8. The population disaster is really here. Since the emergence of the world's population pessimism in Malthus, especially after World War II, the population pessimism has been rampant. The world has been troubled by the sensational and periodic prophecy the population disaster is coming. Even I think 10 years ago, we were discussing this problem: population is increasing too much, population is increasing too much. Even in schools, even during my school time, the teachers would always discuss this: the
Yeah,
we are too many
you
in
can
this planet.
Google that. Even the what I think it's called family planning programs, right? They're still working to reduce
The
birth rates and all.
or the US one, which one?
In India,
I, I think Indian government has yes, Indian government is still going on with that nonsense: two children or whatnot. The
yeah,
Chinese
yeah.
had abandoned that idea. Uh, this idea was, I think, this. So as far as I have understood, this idea is like a virus which cannot be controlled. That the US has used this virus to attack China or the non-white countries, so they can reduce
It's
that.
also a very easy bogeyman, right? That people think that so many others are there competing for the same resources, whereas there are solutions for the actual problems other than just blaming it on population. Everything we
So
look
they
at
have
people,
made
they
this
just
one.
blame random things on population.
हम्म, हम्म, वो एक कोड बना रखा है, कोड कर दो कि रिसोर्स कम हो जाएंगे।
Hmm.
उसका उसका पीछे का कुछ वो मतलब एक्सप्लेनेशन नहीं है उनके पास, जैसे क्लाइमेट चेंज का जो है नहीं है, उसमें भी यही है। उसको अगर आप डिटेल में समझो तो उसमें बहुत प्रॉब्लम्स निकलते हैं। सेम चीज यहाँ पर निकलता है, सेम चीज है। और आई थिंक अभी भी चल रहा है ये जो अफ्रीका में तो पॉपुलेशन वाला जो है ना, ये अभी भी चल रहा है। और मेजर
Uh,
इन्होंने
Shekhar and Neenar,
हम्म,
uh, what you are reading, okay, do you think this population has something to do with Abrahamic theology or Abrahamic morality?
जैसे मतलब
Hmm?
समझा नहीं, समझा नहीं,
Okay,
मतलब थोड़ा
okay. So it's an interesting thought I had. Okay,
हम्म,
so what do you correct? Let's take Abrahamic theology in general. Okay,
हम्म,
so Abrahamic theology in general, correct? Like a lot of them actually have a very contradictory view of population. Okay, take for example the desert cult, desert cults. Correct. In
Hmm.
desert,
Hmm.
by default, you have almost no freshwater resources and no vegetation. Okay. So the land itself cannot support a large population.
Hmm.
Correct. Hmm.
Hmm.
But still, in their theology, they actually propagate the concept to have as many progeny as possible. Now, that is like inconsistent with their ground realities. Example for, let's say, the Bharatiya Mahadweep. Right? The
Hmm.
extended Mahadweep includes uh, the even the Jambudvipa, okay, the modern day Malaysia, Indonesia, all those regions. So these are fertile lands where you have sufficient amount of water, vegetation, you can grow food, and good enough climate actually. So you need water and agriculture to actually support a large amount of population. Right? That's a ground
Hmm.
reality.
Hmm.
But and that's why always the Bharatiya Mahadweep had a large dense population there. Okay, for that reason, because the land is fertile enough to support that kind of densely population which existed here for millennia and millennia. On the other hand, you see the deserts of West Asia, which is inhospitable, and only the hardiest of animals survive. So how
Hmm.
there the theology developed there creates that instruction for followers to actually create as many progeny as possible. Why do you think that exists in terms of contradiction?
In the desert scene, as far as I have understood, I think that is to increase the survivability. So basically, the more the people, the more chances there are that the tribe will survive. So they are not, the
No,
people
no,
will not be looking for the resources. They will be looking to kill the other tribe. So if you have more, if you have more people, so
mm-hmm.
the more the people, the more the your chance to kill them. A number advantage
Hmm.
basically.
Hmm. Hmm.
As far
Hmm.
as the desert goes,
No, okay, Nina.
the
I think Nina is from like science background, correct? So if you see the
Nina,
evolution, correct?
Yeah,
Nina, correct, you are from science background. So if you see the evolution, correct, we have read about evolution, correct? So
right, right.
in an island, correct, because of lack of like food resources or lack of resources in general, the height of the population goes down, correct?
Yes, but also like they just kind of adapt to how eating less and other things, right? That also
Yeah,
happens.
yeah. I'm that I'm saying that the parameter is that correct because your natural resources, the environment that you are living, correct. You adapt to that environment, correct.
Yeah.
So evolution has its own logic that if you are in an island where you have limited amount of land to grow food, then automatically your calorie consumption will go down so that everybody can survive.
hmm,
Yeah,
And
correct.
in that context, the height, the average height of the animals or the size of the animals goes down because it's just survival, correct.
Yeah,
So
only the
now,
like necessary parts of the body will develop more. Say like if you are
exactly.
relying on
Hmm,
fishing, then
hmm,
what your body needs of fishing will grow more, other
hmm,
things will grow
hmm,
less.
hmm, hmm. Now take for example, if they had this desert cult book with those people in living in an island, okay, and they started producing 10, 12 babies, then what will happen?
So probably it will not work out. They will also
No, what?
realize after a point like
yeah,
people will die if you just give them birth like that.
they'll start killing
Yes.
each other.
Yeah.
Just
So
like the
end of the day, what happens? Correct. If you have limited amount of natural resources, correct? Example, take the jungle, correct? Jungle. So if you have too many people, then people need to get wood, and they will cut down the jungle. Okay, once they cut down the jungle, that will affect the environment. The rains will go away, the temperature will go up. So end of the day, when you are disturbing the environment too much, end of the day, that area will be will be inhospitable for human habitation.
Mm.
Correct?
Mhm. Mhm.
Like in an island, if you cut down all the trees in an island because you are producing 10 babies per person, then people will consume, and then they will consume every resource available in that island. After that, that island will not have sufficient resources to actually sustain that kind of population. That's why,
Right.
if you follow the logic of evolution, you will have less babies, you will consume less calories, so that you can survive in that same resource. So
Yeah,
this
but that is in
this
the
Because
over
context of
like
an island, no? If it is not
Yeah,
an
if
island,
no, no,
otherwise
see,
they will
when
go
we
to like they will go from one country to another to search for more resource.
correct, that's good. So what I am trying to say is that this, see, populations forget about you see, let's not about that thing. Correct. India, Bharat had a trade relations with Rome and Egypt. Correct. So people were
Yeah,
actually moving. People were actually moving
mm,
from one place to another, thousands of miles. Correct. In ancient
mm.
times, yeah, you could not have a mass migration, which is possible today because of the other way the transport system works.
Economics
But
would
if
not have worked then, Dada. Who will take them there? And how, even if they had
hmm,
gone there, what will be
hmm.
there? What will they do there? There is nothing to do
see,
there.
see, in general, correct.
That is the thing.
Your behavior is shaped by the environment that you live in.
Mm,
Okay. Because in desert regions you have lack of resources, people will be fighting with each other for resources,
mm.
and for that reason they will be having more babies so that they can have more people to fight over.
The,
Okay. So
so the death ratio will be very high.
exactly,
The death rate will be very high.
death ratio will be high. That's why you have a higher rate of TFR. The TFR is,
Ah,
see, TFR is high
mm,
because you have high mortality rate. So
mm,
like
mm,
when we are talking about data and topics, we forget about it. That if
mm,
Bharat had a TFR of 6 or 7, let's say 100 years ago, that correlates with the high rate of mortality.
mm, mm,
But what happens when you actually create a kind of a artificial Abrahamic morality, where your TFR is increasing and increasing, and your infant mortality rate is also decreasing, that becomes illogical, and that is because
mm.
of the Abrahamic scriptures, which is dictating it. So your high TFR was in correspondence to the high infant mortality rate. If that infant mortality rate has gone down, then you don't need to produce 5 6 babies. Even if you produce,
right, right.
let's say, 4 babies, that is good
Mm,
enough. But
mm.
what we see in Gaza, people have 11 kids in Gaza.
So in that case, there
Hmm,
is something else. No, there is the ideology
hmm.
coming in. They are not.
Yeah,
Uh, they are
yeah,
not
that's
thinking
what I'm saying.
logically.
Yes, yes, yes. That's absolute. That's what I'm saying. That
Mm,
when we are seeing this population problem and other things, we need to also examine the Abrahamic theology, which is actually tells people to produce more babies, irrespective of anything. Whether you have water, whether you have food resources, whether you have anything else where you live in, doesn't really matter. You just go and produce babies, and that is an Abrahamic thing. Correct. Abortion is a very big factor in here. So, but that's aside, producing a progeny was generally was in relation to where you live. In India, you had a higher population because the land could sustain a higher population. In Europe and historically, in Europe, also in America, not America, but in Europe specifically, and also in West Asia, you had a lower population because the land could not sustain a large population. That is natural things are. But when you have an Abrahamic scriptures and dictates coming to telling people that whether you live in Antarctica, whether you live in a desert in Africa, you should have 10 babies. So that angle we need to more explore, that this specific thing where there was a hype around too many people would destroy Earth. There is a kind of relation which happened in Africa and other regions where there was land was not fertile enough to support a TFR of 7 or 8, but people were still producing babies.
Because
And
of
Right.
population
mortality.
and behavior is a local in nature, correct? You will have as many babies as your local land can support or not. Correct, Niner? Your
Yeah.
local
Yeah, yeah.
environment will
More
dictate whether you
practical
have.
perspective is lacking for
Correct,
them.
correct. So the practical purpose is that okay, if your land is sustainable enough, you will have 5 babies. If you don't have enough water and food resources, you will have 2 babies or 3 babies. Correct. But this Abrahamic thing, which is actually inflated that problem little bit more. It became a global thing, global morality compared to a local morality or local behavior itself.
Yeah, and
It's
it
imposing
can't
their
adapt to local circumstances that much.
mm, they are generalizing the behavior. So the
Hmm.
behavior that originated from the desert, they are generalizing in the whole world. So even if you are living in Arctic Circle, you have to produce
Hmm.
50 people.
Exactly.
It is not
So, and that is
sustainable. Who will tell them that?
yes. So, and correct. That is a kind of a like how do you say I am like using the kind of right word to use that word, but that
I
is
think
something
we
which is a
have got
kind
the
of a.
solution for that, Dadapar. We have got the
Go
solution for
ahead.
that. The
Hmm.
consumerism. If you increase their the thing that is good, the America is good in
Hmm. Hmm.
the the entertainment and consumerism.
Hmm.
If you increase that, the fertility
Hmm.
rate will be destroyed within a generation in that whole cult. Both the cults,
Hmm. Hmm.
both the cults, their fertility will be destroyed in a generation if you increase their consumerism. They are attracted to consumerism because their society is very repressive. Now,
Hmm.
if a repressive society,
Hmm.
I have observed some
Hmm.
cases in some societies. What happens
Hmm.
is,
Hmm.
if a society is very repressive towards some a particular, let's say, female or male, if
Hmm.
if their society is oppressive, if that female or male, uh, general female and male, gets little bit of freedom or freedom in their imagination,
Hmm.
they will not produce babies
Hmm. Hmm.
within a generation. The whole TFR of the starting TFR of 8 will be reduced to 1 within a generation. And it
Yeah.
is
See,
already happening.
we need to look at it in a very holistic way. Okay, holistic way is producing 10 babies per person on average is not sustainable. Producing 0 babies is also not sustainable. Correct.
True.
Yeah,
Hmm. So
But they are
so now
already
the
large in number, Dada. They're
yeah,
already in large number.
yeah, I am. That's what I'm saying. That see,
Hmm.
this population density and other things, it grows over at least 2 generations or 3 generations. Let's take an example. Correct. So a generation grows in about 20-25 years. Correct. When the male or
Hmm.
female is able to produce a baby, and that would be about 20
Hmm.
years. Let's say an average, or to 25 years. So you are looking
2020.
at three. to 20 years. Correct. So you are looking at 60 years or 3 generations to actually create an impact. So if the population has inflated so much, okay, then again
No,
that deflation will
no,
again take two generations.
no, this is not. This is not how this happens. Actually, what
Hmm.
happens is, let's say, for example, we have got 100 children or
Hmm. Hmm.
100 people who have produced
Hmm.
100 or 200 people, or let's say 200.
Hmm. Hmm.
Let's take a TFR of 2.
Hmm.
If we introduce consumerism in them,
Hmm.
within a
Hmm.
generation, the
Hmm.
population will
Hmm.
be halved. The 200 people will be reduced to 100. Within next generation, that will be quartered. So they will be reduced to
Hmm.
50.
No, but
We
see
don't have to do
see
anything.
that
Just one
is something
generation.
which is actually, yeah. So see, that is not sustainable. I will tell you why. See, because
Mhm.
again we'll need to go back to Rene Girard of mimesis.
Haha.
Okay, metaphysical desires.
Mhm.
Correct.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
what we feel, what we need is in part our innate human biology or animal biology, and again a major part comes from our environment, what we see, what we observe, what we consume. Okay, we get affected by it. Okay, so like a capitalist state like Israel has a TFR of, let's say, 5 or 6. I don't know the number, but let's say it has a higher number.
Four,
Okay.
four, around
It's
four.
two point something.
Yeah. So
It depends on.
even they have created different groups, like the
Right, right.
ultra orthodox Jews have a TFR of, let's say, 6 or 7. Okay, but the
4 to 5, that are
secular
not
Jews.
6 to 7. 6 to 7 is too much. They are four to
No, no,
five.
no. But there are couples who have 6, 7 children in Israel.
Ah, but
That is
average
rare.
will be down. Average will be
Yeah,
less.
Average is
average
four to
would be
five.
down. So
Four
correct.
to
So
five
what you are
average will
looking.
be.
So what you're now the thing is, take an example of Israel, the Jewish population. Correct. The ultra Orthodox Jews, let's have a taper of 4 example, but the secular Jew will have a say TFR of, let's say, 2 approximate. Now at
No,
least this
no,
double.
they are lower than that. It will be
No,
around
I'm
1.8 or 1.9.
yeah. So let's take that as a sample, correct, as an example. See that ultra Orthodox Jew has a TFR of 4, and the a secular Jew has a TFR of 2. Okay, round figure. Let's take a round figure. In that case, the same country, same kind of living standards, okay, same kind of resources being available to them in general. Why is there a difference of 50% in terms of TFR? What actually driving that?
Jews are
Why? Hmm,
religion.
hmm?
Religion.
No, again, no, not
Religion
religion.
and as
It is the
the two, three
metaphysical
factors are
desire.
there.
Hmm, hmm,
Hey, first is the religion. Because in their religion, it is recommended that you produce more, etc. Now,
hmm, 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 hmm,
the other thing is the survivability. Because they are so small in number, they want to increase their
hmm,
population. Because
hmm,
if
hmm,
you are too
hmm,
small, you can be
hmm,
killed very easily.
hmm, hmm, hmm.
Just take our example. The Hindus
Hmm.
were not wiped out of this subcontinent because we were too numbered.
Too many,
We had
too
our
many.
number were too high for them to kill. Actually,
Hmm, hmm, hmm,
Yeah.
they
hmm,
were tired of killing us. Literally,
hmm,
that's the case
hmm,
because we have survived and the resistance
hmm,
which we have provided.
hmm,
The main reason was
hmm,
because they could not kill us. So
hmm,
the
hmm,
same principle applied. The main principle applied to the Jews is this because they want to increase their population and they want
hmm,
to distribute that population around the world. So
hmm,
they are not concentrated in one particular place, uh,
hmm,
and they could not be wiped out in a single strike. So,
hmm,
so
hmm.
for that
Correct.
reason, they want to increase, as far as
Yes,
I have understood.
yes. Okay. So I am looking at it that what is the mental motivation? What is the mental motivation for people to actually have more babies? that is a metaphysical desire where the society is actually incentivizing. If you have four kids, okay, the society values you more. The society tells you that is a good person, that is a responsible person. Somebody is not producing, he is not doing his duty. So there is a metaphysical desire, there's a metaphysical process which actually tells you, okay, I should have a higher status, a better perception of myself to the society and to the people around me, and then you will have babies. Say example, correct? If 5 people in your group are actually going on a Thailand trip, and they are telling you Thailand is the greatest place on earth, okay, by automatically you will have a desire to actually, I should go to Thailand as well, because the 5 people are saying it's a very good place. So that is called
Copy them.
metaphysical desire. So that is also a very important part which is played.
Dada, I was able to find out the numbers on
Go ahead.
the. So the
Share your screen
average
if you
of.
can.
Oh no, it's on my phone actually.
Okay,
But
no issue, no issue.
I'll just tell it out. So
Go ahead.
average of all Jews in Israel is 3, and
Okay.
average of this Orthodox Haredi is 7. It seems it is very high.
Actually, I see. I
this is
had
very
put
high.
in the number very long ago, but I remember it was like 6+. That I remember, but
Yeah,
it
it
is a
says it
long
is
time
Yes,
ago.
7.
yes. There are some groups that have that. Yes.
Hmm. Hmm. So
Mm.
And
see,
it
so
seems in
that's
like
what I'm saying.
80s, 90s, it was 10 at that time.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have done that thing. That's why I know that it was 6+ that I knew. But but I have seen the data 10, 12 years ago. So I don't know what's done now. So the thing is that so your metaphysical desire, how your society views, okay, how the whole society views a couple with more children, how the state actually functions to actually give that. So when you are talking about consumerism, that is maybe a one aspect of it. But whether you have 2 babies or 4 babies or no babies, that decision is impacted by multiple factors, not only consumerism.
हाँ वो तो है ही पर
Right.
मेन अभी जो मैं जहाँ तक मैंने नोटिस किया है कि
It seems
कंज्यूमरिज्म का
like a
ज्यादा
cultural
इम्पैक्ट है
factor. It seems like a
हाँ
cultural factor
ये
also.
Yes.
कंज्यूमरिज्म कल्चरल फैक्टर को इंपोर्ट कर रहा है ना सो व्हाट हैपेंस इज अमेरिकन्स मेक मूवी ठीक है उस मूवी में वो क्या एक एक बच्चे होंगे सबके ठीक है अभी कंज्यूमरिज्म क्या है इसके अंदर कि सबके पास फोन आ गया है कंज्यूमरिज्म ये है कि सबके पास फोन आ गया है तो वो जो जो प्रोडक्ट वो सब थिएटर में जाके देख रहे थे पैसा उसमें ज्यादा लग रहा था अभी वो क्या कर रहे हैं फोन पे फ्री में देख सकते हैं तो अवेलेबिलिटी बढ़ गई ना कंज्यूमरिज्म की वजह से कि सबके पास फोन है इसलिए क्या अवेलेबिलिटी बढ़ गई अवेलेबिलिटी बढ़ गई तो क्या हो रहा है वही चीज जो कुछ एक स्पेसिफिक अमीर लोगों को इम्पैक्ट कर रहा था जो एक एक दो दो बच्चे कर रहे थे अब वही जो है वो जो 6 या 7 बच्चे पैदा कर रहा है वो भी वो इसी चीज को कंज्यूम कर रहा है ठीक है वही चीज को देख के तो वो भी वही वो उसकी जो मेंटल स्टेट है वो भी वही क्या होगा जो अमीर आदमी का है उसका हो जाएगा तो जो 6 वाली टीएफआर है वो 2 या 1 में कन्वर्ट हो जाएगी
हाँ, take the example of in a city, correct? In a city, you have 2 bedroom flats, correct? So in a 2 bedroom flat, 4 babies. So your environment is actually restricting how many babies you have. The schooling, everything else.
Yeah.
Correct.
We talked about
Correct.
this in the book also. It was written.
Correct. So that's what I'm saying. Okay, whether you have 1 baby, 2 baby, or 5 babies, the factors are multitude. So see, for same reason, correct. There are programs in Japan and Korea to increase the population, like encourage people to have more babies, but it is not working. Correct.
Yeah.
It is not as effective as the government sees.
एक्चुअली में आप आर्टिफिशियली इंक्रीज नहीं कर सकते टीएफआर को सोसाइटी के तौर पे कर सकते हो पर गवर्नमेंट नहीं कर सकती
नहीं गवर्नमेंट भी कर सकती सी गवर्नमेंट भी कर सकते गवर्नमेंट आल्सो कैन डू बट गवर्नमेंट नीड टू लुक एट सी यू कैन नॉट थ्रो मनी
इनडायरेक्ट फैक्टर्स पे काम
टू
कर
एनी
सकते हैं ना
प्रॉब्लम
जैसे ये लैंड साइज वगैरह इंक्रीज
नहीं सी नहीं मैं ये बोल रहा हूँ
कर सकते हैं पर बहुत टाइम लगता है उसमें
बिकॉज
1-2 जनरेशन में इफेक्ट नहीं दिखता उसका
हाँ सी द थिंग इज के इसके मल्टीपल फैक्टर्स होते हैं कि whether you have a baby or not, and that also depends on कि तुम कब कहाँ रह रहे हो, ठीक है. If you are living in 15th century, let's say even 20th century or 19th century in India, correct, तो आपका जो डिसीजन है बच्चे पैदा करने का, उस पर बहुत सारा चीजें मतलब डिपेंड करता है, मतलब बहुत सारी चीजें उस पर इम्पैक्ट लाता है. ओनली थ्रोइंग मनी कि ये पैसे लो और बच्चे पैदा करो, दैट इज नॉट द वे द डिसीजन मेकिंग प्रोसेस वर्क्स. तो आपको पूरा 360 डेज सेम थिंग हैपन करे. कोरिया में, जापान में, आई थिंक कोरिया एंड जापान आर हैविंग दिस लाइक गिविंग मनी टू पीपल एंड इंसेंटिव्स फॉर लास्ट 10-20 years, and it is still not like doing the work it should do. That is because they have diagnosed the problem wrong.
कोरिया और जापान का तो केस मैंने आपको बताया ना, रेस्ट्रिक्शंस वाला. तो दोनों जो सोसाइटी में फीमेल्स से कुछ ज्यादा ही रेस्ट्रिक्शंस था, ठीक है. तो जैसे ही वो आप ये 60s-70s में आप वो रिस्ट्रिक्शन हटाया, फीमेल्स को चॉइस देते ही उन्होंने करना बंद कर दिया, बोले मुझे नहीं करना बच्चे, लिटरली.
अरे नहीं, बिकॉज आज यू कैनॉट डू फुल ना. देखो आज राइट नाउ
ये मल्टीपल फैक्टर्स है.
हाँ,
वो तो हमेशा होगा.
मल्टीपल फैक्टर्स इसमें इम्पोर्टेंट है कि अगर आज गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया को या गवर्नमेंट ऑफ कोरिया या गवर्नमेंट जापान को अगर एक पॉलिसी बनानी है कि लेट्स इंक्रीज द TFR, देन यू नीड पॉलिसी लेवल फ्रेमवर्क्स, यू नीड इकोनॉमिक इंसेंटिव्स, यू नीड सोशल प्रोग्राम्स, जहां पर आप टीवी बनाओगे, टीवी प्रोग्राम बनाओगे, आप मूवीज बनाओगे, आप सीरियल्स बनाओगे, आप आर्टिकल लिखोगे, ठीक है, जहां पर यू आर गोइंग टू शो कि हैविंग मोर बेबीज इज गुड. सो फाइनेंशियल इंसेंटिव, सोशल
करना पड़ेगा ना.
एग्जैक्टली.
तो खाली गवर्नमेंट से काम नहीं चलेगा,
मल्टीपल लीवर्स दबाने पड़ेंगे ताकि आपका TFR बढ़े. जस्ट बिकॉज आप मतलब पैसे दे रहे हो, पीपल डू नॉट सी. सेम थिंग हैपनिंग चाइना है सेज कि भाई नाउ यू हैव 3 बेबीज, बस कोई नहीं कर रहा है, बिकॉज देयर इज मनी इज नॉट द अल्टीमेट सोल्यूशन टू द प्रॉब्लम. The problem is complex and it requires a multifaceted, levered approach to actually solve this problem. एक से काम नहीं बनेगा. Go ahead.
जहाँ तक मैंने देखा है, मतलब अब मैं स्पेसिफिकली डेजर्ट गर्ल्स की बात कर रहा हूँ, तो उसमें कंज्यूमरिज्म का ज्यादा इम्पैक्ट है, जहां तक मैंने देखा है, क्योंकि उसका ज्यादा इम्पैक्ट जल्दी दिख जाता है. इस वजह से बाकी चीजों का मतलब बाकी चीजें होती है, पर कंज्यूमरिज्म का ज्यादा इम्पैक्ट होता है, क्योंकि आपके अवेलेबल हो गया ना वो चीज आपको, सो आप फील कर रहे हो उसको रोज देख के, क्योंकि आपके पास फोन है ना. तो लोग, आप अमीर लोगों को देखोगे और फिर सेलिब्रिटीज हैं, बोलेंगे मुझे बच्चे नहीं करना. हर कोई जिसको देखो वो बोल रहा है बच्चे नहीं करना. तो क्या बेसिकली आपको क्या ब्रेन वॉशिंग का इम्पैक्ट हो रहा है उसके ऊपर. फिर वो दूसरी तरफ से फेमिनिज्म का है. फेमिनिज्म भी बहुत एक बड़ा रोल प्ले करता है इसके अंदर, कि आप क्योंकि मेन जो बच्चों का प्रॉब्लम है वो फीमेल का है, मेल का नहीं है ना, क्योंकि डिसाइड तो फीमेल को करना है ना. इस वजह से तो मैंने, अच्छा इसका एक एग्जांपल है, मैं आपको एग्जांपल देता हूँ. केरला में जो 3 सेक्शंस होते हैं आपके. एक होता है 18 to 25, जो कि मतलब एज ग्रुप के 3 ग्रुप होते हैं. 18 to 25 to 26 होता है. 26 to आपका 32 के आसपास होता है, और 32 से फिर मतलब जहां तक अवेलेबल मतलब है पॉसिबल वहां तक जाता है. तो इसमें जो मेन जो TFR है ना, ये केरला की बात हो रही है, और एक कल्ट की बात कर रहे हैं हम लोग. तो उसमें जो मेन जो TFR है वो आपका 32 के ऊपर वाला जो ग्रुप है ना, उन्हीं के बच्चे हो रहे हैं. 4 से ज्यादा, 3 से 4-5 जो बच्चे हैं वो सब 32 के ऊपर वाले हैं, मतलब ये पिछले जनरेशन के हैं, ठीक है. फिर जो आपके जो 25 के ऊपर वाले जो हैं, मतलब 25 के जो 32 के बीच वाला जो ग्रुप है, उसमें 2 हो रहे हैं, 2 के आसपास. और जो 18 वाला ग्रुप है उसमें बच्चे ही नहीं हो रहे हैं, मतलब किसी को 1 हो रहा है, किसी को नहीं हो रहा है, बस वो TFR 1.5 के आसपास चला गया है. और ये क्रिश्चियंस की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ.
So correct. So that is मतलब उसमें multiple efforts डाले गए हैं ना कि गवर्नमेंट ने इंसेंटिवाइज किया कि भाई बच्चे कम पैदा करो ताकि तुमको डर लगे। गवर्नमेंट ने प्रोपेगेंडा किया कि भाई ज्यादा करोगे तो सब खराब हो जाएगा, करेक्ट। देन दे हैड गवर्नमेंट डिपार्टमेंट्स, देन दे हैड like propaganda via television, movies, by every medium to actually push that message day in day out. Don't make more babies, don't make more babies, and it went on for 2 generations. 40 साल लगे इस प्रोपेगेंडा को वाया मशीनरी इंप्लीमेंट करने में। तो ये एक दिन अगेन अगर तुमको रिवर्स करना है तो इसको फिर तुमको इट विल टेक यू अनदर 40 years, a constant effort, multifaceted effort to do that. So it's not a easy simple solution.
होता है। अच्छा, मैंने एक और चीज नोटिस की थी कि मैं जैसे बोला था ना कि 1-2 जनरेशन में ही इसका इम्पैक्ट दिख जाता है, जो कंज्यूमरिज्म का और ये जो टीएफआर डिक्लाइन है। तो ये जो है कल्ट्स में जल्दी दिखती है और रैपिडली डिक्रीज होती है, ठीक है। अगर आप वेगन्स और जो नॉन जो कल्ट वाले हैं ना उनका लेओगे ना तो उनमें जो डिक्लाइन है बहुत ही स्टेडी होती है, मतलब होगी डिक्लाइन पर वो 5-6 जनरेशन में होगी। जैसे अगर आप साउथ कोरिया की बात करो और आप जापान को उसका कंपेयर करो तो जापान की डिक्लाइन जापान ने कंट्रोल कर ली है, ठीक है। उसकी डिक्लाइन है वो ठीक है, उसकी डिक्लाइन स्टेडी है, धीमे धीमे हो रही है, तो सोसाइटी के पास टाइम है अडेप्ट होने के लिए, ठीक है। क्योंकि उनकी जो डिक्लाइन है उस 80s में ही चालू हो गई थी और अभी भी डिक्लाइन ही हो रहा है, ठीक है। पर वो उस लेवल पर नहीं पहुंचा है कि अगले जनरेशन में सोसाइटी कोलैप्स हो जाएगी, ऐसा पे नहीं पहुंचा है अभी तक वो, ठीक है। वो जापान उसको रिकवर नहीं भी करेगा तो कम से कम सोसाइटी कोलैप्स नहीं होगी। पर अगर आप वही चीज जाके अगर आप साउथ कोरिया में नोटिस करो तो नेक्स्ट जनरेशन में सोसाइटी साउथ कोरिया की कोलैप्स हो जाएगी। जस्ट 1 जनरेशन, ये लास्ट जनरेशन साउथ कोरिया के पास, उसके पास में नेक्स्ट जनरेशन में कोलैप्स है, टोटल कोलैप्स है, क्योंकि वहां पे जो है ज्यादातर सारे क्रिश्चियंस बन गए, ठीक है। और जो बचे हैं वो एथीस्ट है ना, वो जो आपका उनका फोक रिलीजन है उसको भी फॉलो नहीं करते, बुद्धिज्म को भी फॉलो नहीं करते, ना चाइनीज वालों को फॉलो करते हैं। तो जो बच्चे हैं वो या तो एथीस्ट हैं या क्रिश्चियंस है, तो ही बच्चे वहां पे, बुद्धिस्ट भी नहीं बच्चे।
क्रिश्चियंस भी वो इवेंजेलिकल टाइप होते हैं, वो कंज्यूमरिस्ट बहुत होते हैं ना।
हाँ हाँ, वो या क्रिश्चियंस भी वहां सारे के सारे यही हैं, कंज्यूमरिज्म वाले। और ये रैबिट हो गए हैं अब, तो बेसिकली ये एकदम लास्ट लेग पे हैं, तो ये कुछ कर नहीं सकते, तो दूसरों को जाके कन्वर्ट कर रहे हैं खाली, और कुछ नहीं कर पा रहे ये लोग। वहां जो पढ़ने आते हैं उनको भी यही कन्वर्ट करने की कोशिश करते हैं, वो जो स्टूडेंट्स जाते हैं ना वहां पढ़ने उनको भी।
ओके, कंटिन्यू करते हैं फिर विल सी।
ठीक है,
यस,
कंटिन्यू करें।
यस यस।
ठीक है।
How long has it been? It has been 1 hour 20 minutes. Okay, yeah, you can continue.
Since the emergence of the world's population pessimism in Malthus, yeah, the population disaster, wolf is coming. I think same is, चलो बाद में discuss करते हैं। Wolf is coming has been shouted for 200 years, and the wolf is really coming. But it is not the big bad wolf, but the white-eyed wolf. The global fertility situation began to change quantitatively in 1970s. According to UN data, the average fertility rate in developed countries was lower than the generational replacement level in the mid 70s by 2.1 and was only 6.6 from 2005 to 2010. It is stable at the current level. The population of Japan and Europe will decrease from 127 million and 740 million in 2010 to 57 million and 418 million in 2100 respectively. The fertility rate in developing countries also dropped from 6 in the late 1960s to 2.6 in 2005 to 6. What causes the global fertility rate to decline? The relationship between population production and the material production is dislocation. From individuals to governments, they emphasize material reproduction while ignoring population reproduction. Socialization of elderly care. Thus, investment in raising children is decoupled from personal income. creation is rewarded, but the creation has no reward. Basically, material creation is rewarded, but not children. The huge investment in creating people is mainly produced by the family, but the output is mainly in society. Financially, raising children is a loss. Children are the country's wealth, but they are the high consumption of individuals. The cost of raising children increases. I think दादा इसमें मैं एक और पॉइंट था मेरा कि इन्होंने सोसाइटी को डिस्ट्रॉय कर दिया है, ये है ना। अब ये एक नया फिनोमिना है कि आपको चिल्ड्रन रेज का कॉस्ट होना ही क्यों चाहिए, क्योंकि आपके पास ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स होंगे तो आपको कॉस्ट आएगा ही नहीं। पर अगर आपके पास ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स नहीं है तो आपको एक नर्स रखनी पड़ेगी, फिर उसके बच्चे के लिए अलग खर्चे करने पड़ेंगे। तो आप एक आर्टिफिशियली सिचुएशन क्रिएट कर रहे हो जहां और पैसा लगे। 2010 study by the USDA showed that the rising children to the age of 18 cost an average of 226,000, which is exactly the same as the median housing price in the US. The more children there are, the lower the marginal cost. The cost of raising a second child is 60% that of first child, and the cost of raising a third child is 27% of the first child. But the rewards of three children to society are three times that of one child. China only allows one child to have, unlike the other countries, अभी हटा दिया है, which reduces the marginal cost by having more children. The cost of raising children is the highest in the world, but the return on childbirth is the lowest in the world. Since there is only one child, China does not only raise it until high school graduation like Western countries, and also has to bear the cost of university education, buying a house, getting married, having children. It can be said that the China only cultivates one labor force in the future at the cost of three children. Now, everyone thinks that even if the family planning is stopped, they cannot afford to raise two children. It is based on the parenting standards of only children. If the mainstream families have three children, the cost of raising children will greatly decrease. So mainstream, I think, elite families will, if they start producing children, the others will follow, or it is opposite. The others, the,
Uh,
contraceptive rate has. Hmm.
yeah, you can continue.
The contraceptive rate has increased after the invention of condoms, contraceptive caps, and cervical caps. The fertility rate in Western countries fell rapidly in the 19th century. After the successful development of oral contraceptive pills and uh, urinary contraceptive rings in the early 1960s, it further promoted the decline in global fertility rate. The marriage rate has decreased, and the number of single and DIDs has increased. For example, in 2003, 54% of women over 25 years old, and 43% of the men in the early 30s were unmarried, twice as many as in 1980s. It is predicted that by 2020, 30% of the Japanese family will be single families, while the proportion of single families in the capital Tokyo will exceed 40%. Hong Kong's single ratio has now surpassed China, Japan, and Beijing. Shanghai and Guangzhou are catching up with Hong Kong. Population, the divorce rate increases. The traditional marriage model is economic cooperation and fertility community. However, now that the economic socialization, the economic cooperative has been broken and the divorce rate has increased, which has also led to the collapse of the fertility community. The time for childbirth is limited. Only on the one hand, the high divorce rate is wasteful of childbirth. On the other hand, it makes women feel insecure and dare not have children. On the other hand, it increases the cost of living, raising children. The divorce rate in European and American societies has remained high for a long time. East Asian countries such as South Korea has come from behind. Since the reform and the opening up, China's divorces has continued to increase. In 1978, only 285,000 couples divorced, while in 2011, a total of 2.11 million couples divorced. तो बहुत ज़्यादा increase है. Employment and life pressure are great. In an agricultural society, the pace of life is slow, and dealing with natural environment can predict life in the next few decades. Although it is poor naturally, materially, it is relatively safe psychologically and has a low suicide rate. Now we deal with people and society. Employment replacement is frequent. Just like standing on a fast moving convertible with a grip on the handrail, ignorant of where the car is heading, worried about preventing it from falling, psychological security decreases. High suicide rate, let alone, let alone having children. Since 1950, the global suicide rate has been increasing. The suicide rate in Japan, South Korea, Russia, and Eastern Europe is very high. The fertility rate is also very low. Latin American countries such as Brazil and Mexico have a lower suicide rate and higher fertility rate. In ancient times, the population of nomadic peoples was difficult to increase because of their bodies floating around. Now that the urban population is wandering mentally and dare not have children. Women's education level and labor participation rate have improved. So extension of education time not only reduces women's willingness to give birth, but also decreases greatly shortens women's innocence period. The employment pressure is high, so that both husband and wife have to work to ensure economic security of the family. The employment rate of the woman is rising. Faced with fierce social competition, they have no time and energy to raise children and are worried that having children will cause material, job opportunity, and skill losses. Among marriage rate and childbearing age are delayed and sexual life is reduced. Among the women born in Japan in 1953, 18% had no children by the age of 30. 51% had no children by the age of 30. And the women in their early 20s are the uh, golden age of childbearing. The quality of fertility and fertility declined with age. Many women Many women are trapped in the contradiction of no fertility conditions when they have the ability to have children and no fertility when they have the conditions to have children. So basically, they do not want to have children when there is fertility, and when there is no fertility, they want to have children. In ancient times, 50 years old women were must be with a 5-day imperial degree. Now, due to entertainment activities such as movies, televisions, and computers, many couples in their 30s have neglected the way to be loyal. The proportion of infertility has increased dramatically. According to medical statistics, in the past 3 decades, the incidence of infertility in China has risen rapidly from 1 to 3% in the 1970 to close to level of 15 to 20% in the developed countries. Analysis of the 2001 family planning survey data using the international standard caliber of infertility rate shows that China's primary infertility rate is as high as 17%. The World Health Organization believes that the infertility will become the third largest disease after tumors and cardiovascular and cerebrovascular vascular diseases. याद रखते हैं आज हेलो दिनर
Yes, Shekhar. Yes, Shekhar.
कंटिन्यू करें कि
No, I
यहाँ पे
think let's stop here because we have one more.
हाँ तो यहाँ पे ये वो वाला पोर्शन खत्म हो गया अभी नेक्स्ट सेक्शन है
Okay, okay.
Next one we have the stream.
ठीक है
So, any closing comments from both of you?
So, yeah, we discussed all the points about how population decline is happening there, in general in China and elsewhere as well. And the author has listed various factors. We also discussed other aspects about the historical population and uh, how various factors influence the population, right? Shekhar can tell more.
The population, the basis of society is the population. If we don't have population, there is nothing left. There is no economy, there is no culture, there is no traditions. Everything will collapse on itself if the population is not there. As far as I have seen, the nobody is focusing on this problem in India. Because even in general vicinity, nobody knows that there is a problem called population decline. Nobody understands this. So understanding the problem is very important to do anything to solve it. So I think first we have to understand what are the factors, and then we have to look at what are the possible solutions. The Chinese are a very good study material for that, because they have gone through this cycle of population decline and population increase again and again. So we can learn a great deal of
Exactly.
things from them. In the current scenario, they are going from a population decline. So if we go by the historical situations, the Chinese are already in decline, but they will be showing a lot of force before they fully decline. I think they
They
have
will
they have got
obviously
enough
try out
single
various
generation.
policies against it as well, and we can learn from their
Yes,
mistakes and so on.
Yeah,
we have
one
got
more
two
thing as well.
generations. Yes.
See, one more thing as well. If you look at the, like, if you go beyond the layer, okay, beyond the obvious layer of issues, and there are actually
Hmm.
underlying issues which also needs to be discussed. One is the family unit, destruction of family, and what do we
Ah,
mean by family? It's important to understand, correct? In, let's say, 100 years ago, or maybe 50 years ago, a family meant mother, father, children, grandfather, and grandmother. Right? So that was a family. Now today, when we define family, we define family as mother, father, and one or two kids. Correct? The definition has changed. And in terms of human reproduction, grandparents play a very important part. And if you extend that argument, correct, the sense of community plays a very important part. When we say about human,
Yes.
so
uh,
as far तो
Voice is gone.
grandparents का जो पूरा जो रोल है ना खत्म कर दिया हमने, उनको एल्डरली होम्स में
yeah,
डाल दिया अभी.
yeah, no, no. One more thing. See, the thing is that when we say community, what do we mean by community? So you had Dr. Baliram Hedgewar.
Hmm.
Dr. Baliram Hedgewar was the founder of Sangh, RSS.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now, how many people know that he lost his parents, biological parents, at the age of uh, 12 or something? That number may be here and there, but in early in his childhood, he lost his parents, biological parents, and there were and he had, I think, around 3 or 4 siblings at that time. Okay, now their parents were died. They were lost due to cholera. Okay, in Nagpur,
Hmm.
and he was adopted. He was adopted by Mr. Munje. Okay, so Mr. Munje became his father, like a father figure itself. So at that time, there was a community capital among uh, Indians and Hindus in general, that if a parent, if the biological parents have died, okay, the extended family or person who has money and resources, he will adopt those kids, and they will take care of them as a community. It happened. Munje was not a biological parent of Mr. Balizam Hedgewar, but
Hmm.
he, as a community leader, Mr. Munje, actually took care of those kids. So that's when we say that when you are talking about progeny as human reproduction of bringing children, being a next generation, it is not only the responsibility of the biological parents, it is also responsibility of the grandparents, it is also responsibility of the whole community itself, which actually brings which like like trains trains the next generation, takes care of it. So if tomorrow I have a kid, the kid's responsibility to actually raise the kids, the responsibility is with me, with my extended family, and also the community itself. So over this industrial revolution, the family unit has been destroyed. The sense of community has been destroyed because the state has taken all the powers, and now you are dependent on state itself. So you are dealing with the state as an individual, one person. But many years ago, you had a community who would deal with the state. So you had these correct guilds, correct the caste groups. We can say
Hmm.
caste groups. So caste group would
Yes.
have elders. Caste group would
Ah,
have their own leadership, and they will deal with the state, not as individuals.
but as a pressure
So
group.
children are a responsibility of the biological parents. Children are a responsibility of the extended family, including grandparents, and children are also responsible of the samaj, or the society or community itself. That if somebody loses their biological parents, the community takes care of them. Now what happens? The state takes care of them. They will put into a orphanage home, and you know what happens in orphanage homes. So it's a
Nobody
very
takes care of
complex
them.
problem to it's a very complex problem to solve. There are multiple facets, there are multiple things which needs to be. First, we need to identify the problem. Okay, one of the
Hmm.
most primary thing in my opinion is the restoration of the family unit as
Ah,
the building blocks of society, and restoration of the community capital, the community over the extended community which we belong to, so that community takes care of the community members itself. So we are not dependent on state to do everything for us. Yeah.
State has
So final.
pretty much destroyed everything in a common man's life. Uh, After the distractions comes the all the negative aspects like consumerism and all that. All that comes in effect after the protection that we had from ancient times, what we know as family structure, that is pretty much destroyed. And after that, anything can be done to an individual because the individual doesn't can't spare time for anything because he's
Hmm.
busy making money. He can't focus on anything else. So and everything negative will affect him. The so
Yes.
as far as I the grandparents thing is very important. Extended family, you can debate, but the most important is your relative, the blood relatives, which are your parents, the parents'
No.
parents,
No.
the grandparents.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
After
But
that,
see that.
then
See
other
the
things.
thing. See the thing is that the one point that we need to understand and take note and like take it with us is
Hmm.
a a baby is responsibility of the biological parents, the extended family, and
Hmm.
the community.
Hmm. Hmm.
Community cannot say that if their biological parents have died, I will not take care of them.
Ah,
See, if today that community bond was not there, where Munje took care of Mr. Balizam Hedgewar and his family, you will not have Sangh today. Just think about it. If that community solidarity, that community function, that community bonding, which made sure that Balizam Hedgewar was adopted by Mr. Munje, and then he became the person who became, and he founded Sangh. So just remember that very small data point. And you would not have Sangh today if you did not have Munje, or you do not have the institution of community itself. Think
hmm.
how important
True,
it is.
true, true.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and
So
correct.
children are not only responsibility of you as biological parents. Children are responsible for the whole society itself. Everybody has to
Ah,
contribute. Everybody has to sacrifice. I cannot say that okay, I will enjoy myself. I don't have any responsibilities.
hmm.
If this is the case, then you will not have a human society as well.
True. Thank you, Dada. Thank you, Nina.
Thank you.
कभी
Thank
जोड़ने
you.
के लिए
We'll see you.
धन्यवाद.
We'll
We'll
see you
continue
again
in the
at a
next
7th.
time.
Yes, we'll continue.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Namaste to all the viewers.